I was sitting in my new casita, in the high desert near Sedona. The air was so quiet it felt sacred. I was looking out at the red rocks, glowing under the moonlight. It was the first night of my entire adult life that I actually felt peaceful. I took a single picture on my phone. Just my mug of tea, the moonlight hitting the stone of the walled courtyard. I posted it to my private Instagram, the one with maybe 20 friends. My caption was simple: a quiet place. 10 minutes later, my phone exploded on the table. It was a text from my mother, Sharon, in the family group chat. Her words were bright and cheerful, which is always a warning. Wonderful news. Orly bought a perfect getaway. It's such perfect timing. Evan and Chloe can move in by the end of the month, right after Evan's startup officially failed. Have you ever felt like your success was immediately claimed by someone else? Let me know your story down below. And where you're listening from. My name is Orly. I'm 31 years old. I live in Phoenix. And I'm a data analyst for a tech firm. I'm good at my job. I find patterns in chaos. I take messy, complicated data sets, and I find the clean, simple truth hidden inside. In my family, I was the only one who did that. In my family, there were only two roles. My older brother, Evan, who is 35, was the golden child. He was the son. He was the one with potential. He was the receiver. And I was the resource. I was the giver. I was the one who was quiet, competent, and responsible. The one who was expected to be useful. My whole life was a history of being erased. My achievements were never celebrated. They were just absorbed by the family system and redirected to Evan. My wins weren't wins. They were just resume builders for my real job, which was being Evan's unpaid, unacknowledged support system. But the most precise act of erasure, the one that defined our entire relationship, happened when I was 18. My great-aunt, a distant relative I barely knew, had left a small education trust fund for me. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough. It was my way out. It was my ticket to college without crippling debt. I found out about it in March. By May, it was gone. My father, Brian, sat me down at the kitchen table. He didn't ask. He informed me. He had that calm, reasonable tone he always used when he was about to do something unforgivable. Orali, he said, we've decided to temporarily borrow your education fund. Temporarily borrow. Evan has a brilliant idea, he said. It's a sure thing, but he needs seed money. This is a family investment. We're investing in him. I just sat there. I didn't say anything. What was there to say? He wasn't asking my permission. He was notifying me of a withdrawal. My money, my one escape route, had just been declared family capital and allocated to my brother. 6 months later, Evan's brilliant idea, some kind of drop-shipping scheme for bespoke dog collars, went bankrupt. The money was gone. All of it. I didn't get to go to my first-choice university. I went to a state school, the one I could afford while working 2 jobs. I took out student loans. I spent my 20s eating instant noodles and budgeting every single dollar, clawing my way out of the debt they had put me in. And when I finally graduated, when I got my first real job offer at the tech firm, I called my mother, Sharon, my voice shaking with pride. She didn't say congratulations. She said, "Oh, wonderful. Now you can finally start helping Evan with his next project." I was standing in my kitchen, my hands shaking. Not from fear, but from a cold, electric clarity. The text message from my mother sat on the screen, glowing. Evan and Chloe can move in. It all flashed back to 6 months ago. The turning point. It was an email from a law firm. My great-aunt, Judith, had passed away. Judith was the 72-year-old black sheep of the family, the one who had moved to Oregon and was only spoken of in hushed, disapproving tones. She was, like me, an outsider, and she had left me $120,000. It was a signal. It was a weapon. It was an escape hatch. I told no one. Not a soul. I didn't put the money in my savings account, where my father, Brian, still had viewing access because of an old college account we'd shared. I went online and, for a small filing fee, I created Saguaro Holdings LLC. A corporation. A shield. My name was nowhere on the public documents. I opened a new business bank account and wired the entire inheritance into it. Then I started looking. Not for a getaway, as my mother had called it. I was looking for a fortress. I found it in the high desert, 2 hours outside Phoenix. The listing called it a mid-century modern casita, with potential. The reality was that it was a ruin. The roof was leaking. The windows were cracked. And it was suffocating under decades of neglect. It was perfect. I bought it cash. Through the LLC. I spent the next 3 months driving up every single weekend. I learned how to patch a roof. I learned how to install drywall. I tore out the old, rotting carpets with my bare hands. I installed new steel frame doors, commercial-grade deadbolts, and smart cameras that covered every inch of the perimeter. When I was done, I stood in the walled courtyard, breathing in the smell of the desert after the rain, that sharp, clean scent of sage and creosote. That was the smell of my freedom. And now, standing in that same courtyard, my phone rang. The group chat was the announcement. This was the follow-up. My father. Brian. I let it ring 3 times. I took a breath. I answered. Hello. O'Reilly. His voice was the one he used for business. Calm. Rational. And completely devoid of warmth. The voice that meant he was about to steamroll me. I saw your mother's text. We're all very excited. I waited. Silence is a weapon he never knew how to use. He cleared his throat. Annoyed that I didn't immediately agree. Listen. Your mother is right. Evan and Chloe are in a tough spot. You have a 2-bedroom casita. It's a simple, logical alignment of resources. Be useful. Be useful. Not congratulations. Not are you happy? Be useful. It was the story of my life. Boiled down to 2 words. I was not a daughter. I was a resource. An asset to be allocated. I held the phone to my ear. And the shaking in my hands stopped. It was replaced by something solid. Like steel. No. I said. The silence on the other end of the line was heavy. He wasn't used to that word. What did you say? I said no. The house is not available. No one is moving in. That is my final decision. I heard a sharp huff of air. He wasn't just angry. He was insulted. As if a line item on his spreadsheet had just talked back. We'll see about this, he said. And the line clicked dead. I stared at the phone. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel sad. I understood. I understood exactly what had just happened. I had just violated my role. You see, in what psychologists call a closed family system, every member is forced into a fixed, rigid role. It's not about love. It's about maintaining the system's balance. Usually around one person. In my family, Evan was the golden child. The receiver. His role was to have potential, to dream, and to fail. My role was to be the competent one. The resource. My job was to give, to support, and to clean up the mess. My entire life. I had played my part perfectly. By buying this house for myself, by taking my own money and building my own peace, I wasn't just declining a request. I was committing an act of treason. I had abandoned my role. And in a closed system, when one part breaks, the entire system will attack it to force it back in line. They weren't just angry about a house. They were angry that their resource had just declared itself a human being. I knew my no wasn't an answer. It was a declaration of war. The dread was a cold, physical thing in my chest. But my mind was moving fast. I was a data analyst. I find patterns in chaos. My family was chaos. I would find the pattern. I didn't call a friend. I didn't text my colleagues. I opened my laptop and searched Best Property Litigation Attorney. Sedona. The first result was a firm with a stark, minimalist website. The head attorney's name was Kira. I called her office. A receptionist put me on hold for less than 10 seconds. Kara speaking. Her voice was like her website. Clean. Cold. And carrying zero emotion. Ms. Kira. I said. my own voice matching hers. My name is Orly. I am the managing member of Saguaro Holdings LLC. I have a family issue that is attempting to become a property issue. They have declared their intent to occupy my house against my will. There was a quiet tapping of a keyboard. They have declared their intent, she repeated. Good. That makes it simple. She didn't ask. But it's your family, she didn't ask. Have you tried talking to them? She said. They've told you what they're going to do. We will act first. I am drafting a formal no trespass letter. It will be filed with the county sheriff's office and recorded against your parcel number. It will name Brian, Sharon, and Evan. This way, when they show up, you are not a hysterical daughter. You are the representative of a corporation reporting a crime. I felt a wave of relief so strong, my knees buckled. It was the relief of being seen. Of being believed. What else, I asked. You are the managing member, Keira said. Reinforce your perimeter. I drove from the casita. Not back to Phoenix, but to the nearest hardware store. I walked past the paint chips and the garden supplies. I bought a box of 3-inch wood screws and a heavy-gauge steel strike plate. That night, I got my drill. I unscrewed the laughably small, half-inch screws that held the deadbolt plate to the doorframe. They were barely anchored in the wood trim. I fitted the new steel plate. I took one of the new 3-inch screws. I drove the first one in. The drill whined as the screw bit past the trim, past the jamb, and sank deep into the 2x4 stud that framed the house itself. I drove in the other two. I closed the solid core steel door. I threw the deadbolt. It made a short, final, heavy thunk. It was the sound of no. Forged in steel. The confrontation came 3 days before Thanksgiving. I was in my home office, logged into my work computer, analyzing a data set. The house was blissfully quiet. Then my phone pinged. A notification from the driveway camera. Motion detected. My heart didn't leap. It just started to beat. A slow, heavy, deliberate rhythm. I opened the app. The image was grainy, but clear. A white rental SUV. It crunched to a stop on the gravel. The doors opened. My father, Brian, stepped out, surveying the house like a general. My mother, Sharon, got out, pulling her sweater tight. My brother, Evan, unfolded himself from the back seat. And then his wife, Chloe, looking tired and pale. They had suitcases. 4 of them. And then a 5th person got out of the passenger side. A man in a work jacket, carrying a long metal toolbox. My blood went cold. They hadn't just ignored me. They had planned. They had budgeted. They had brought a locksmith. They all walked up to my front door. The doorbell chimed. I didn't move from my desk. I just watched the porch camera feed. My mother, Sharon, stepped forward, forcing that bright, social smile. She looked right at the camera. O'Reilly. Honey. Open up. Don't be silly. We drove all day. We're family. Let us in. I said nothing. I just watched. My father, Brian, sighed. The classic, long-suffering sound of his impatience. He stepped past my mother. He didn't even knock. He just gestured to the locksmith. Open it, he commanded. The locksmith nodded, knelt, and began to unpack his tools. He pulled out a power drill. He was going to drill through my new deadbolt. He was going to destroy my front door. That was the line. My fingers were cold, but perfectly steady. I didn't press the talk button on the camera app. I dialed 911. The dispatcher's voice was calm. What is your emergency? I kept my own voice just as calm. I am reporting an active trespass and attempted forced entry at Tave. I gave the address. I am the managing member of Saguaro Holdings LLC. The owner of the property. The individuals, Brian, Sharon, and Evan Stewart, were served with a formal, no trespass letter. Record number 309B. They are currently on my porch with a locksmith and are attempting to drill my deadbolt. There was a sharp change in the dispatcher's tone. Ma'am, are you safe in the house? I am safe, I said. The doors are reinforced, but they are trespassing and attempting to destroy property. A patrol car is en route. Your file and the no trespass order are on record. Please stay inside and do not engage. I hung up. I went back to the camera app. The locksmith was working, his drill whining against the steel plate I had installed. It wasn't budging. My brother, Evan, stepped forward, his face red with frustration. This is ridiculous, he yelled. Orally, stop being a child, we're here. Just open the door. He was about to bang on the door when the world lit up in red and blue. A patrol car crunched up the gravel drive, its headlights pinning the entire group in a harsh, white glare. They froze. They looked like actors caught on stage when the wrong curtain went up. The locksmith dropped his drill as if it were on fire. A deputy stepped out of the car. He was tall, calm, and looked deeply annoyed. Good evening, folks. His voice boomed in the desert night. Having some car trouble. My mother, Sharon, instantly transformed. She became the victim, her hands clasped at her chest. Oh, thank goodness. Officer, this is all a terrible misunderstanding. This is our daughter's house. She's not well. She's locked herself in. And we're just so worried about her. The deputy looked at my mother. He looked at the 4 suitcases. He looked at the locksmith's tools scattered on my porch. I see, he said. He took a small step back. I'm going to need to see identification from all of you. My father, Brian, stiffened. His CEO voice came on. Officer, I really don't think that's necessary. This is a private family matter. It became a property matter. Sire, the moment this gentleman, he motioned to the locksmith, pulled out a drill. Identification. Now. One by one. They handed over their licenses. The deputy looked at each one. Brian Stewart. Sharon Stewart. Evan Stewart. He looked at his clipboard. Well, good news and bad news, the deputy said, flashing his light on the paper. Good, I know what's going on. Bad, this property isn't owned by Orally. It belongs to Saguaro Holdings LLC. And I've got a filed no trespass order from their counsel barring all 3 of you. Silence. My mother's face crumpled. An LLC, she stammered. That's just paperwork. I'm her mother, ma'am, the deputy said flatly. There's no family right in criminal trespass. You were warned. He turned to the locksmith. You're lucky I'm not arresting you. The locksmith's hands shook as he packed up. He told me it was his daughter's house. I'm done. He fled. My father growled. This is harassment. Our lawyers, that's your right, said the deputy. Call them from a hotel. Tonight. You leave this mountain. Checkmate. They loaded their luggage in silence and drove away. When the sound faded, I finally exhaled. The fortress had held. Thanksgiving passed quietly. I thought the war was over. It wasn't. A week later, a friend texted me a screenshot from my mother's Facebook, a post of Evan and Chloe. So blessed this Thanksgiving. They found a quiet desert home to start over. Thousands of congratulations. It was a new attack, building a false narrative. Then came the mail notice, change of address verification. Evan Stewart, my address. They weren't breaking in, they were trying to legally invade. I sent everything to Kira. Her reply was a call. They've escalated, she said. Your father filed a mechanic's lien, claims he's owed $50,000 for fake repairs. It's financial fraud. O'Reilly. He's trying to cloud your title. This is no longer family, it's a crime. That night, the dread turned into resolve. Kira filed motions and protective orders. Court was set for January. New Year's Eve. I hosted a party, friends. Laughter. Witnesses. Then motion detected. 2 SUVs pulled up. My family stepped out with a mediator. He waved a document. We're here to resolve your father's financial claim, I said. You're trespassing. Evan snapped. You think this matters? You're alone. We're family. I didn't flinch. I'm not alone. A uniformed officer stepped into the courtyard light. You are in violation of a no trespass order and cited for financial fraud, he said, handing them 3 envelopes. You are served. My mother gasped. My father's face drained. Then Chloe broke. I told you I wouldn't do this, she screamed at Evan and ran to the car. The family unit shattered. They left in silence. I shut my steel door and turned to my true family, the ones who stayed. The desert air was clear. Peace had a sound. And I finally heard it. This is for anyone ever treated as a resource instead of a person. Your peace isn't given, it's built. With boundaries. With courage. And with the power to say no. You are not alone.